You didn't fail your productivity system. Your productivity system failed you. And the reason why is something that nobody in the self-help space actually wants to admit. Because it would put most of them out of business. If you've ever spent a Sunday night color coding your calendar, setting up a brand new app, creating the perfect morning routine, only to completely abandon it by Thursday. You already know this feeling, that mixture of shame and confusion, like you're somehow broken, like everyone else figured out this whole being productive thing except you. You're not broken, but you have been lied to. Here's what's actually going on. The entire productivity industry, the books, the apps, the YouTube channels, yes, including this one, is built on a fundamentally flawed assumption. The assumption that the problem is your system, that if you just find the right framework, the right app, the right morning routine, everything will click into place. G, T, D, Pomodoro, time blocking, second brain, eat the frog, the list goes on. But studies consistently show that over 90% of people who adopt a new productivity system abandon it within the first 30 days. 90%. That's not a failure of willpower. That's not laziness. When something fails that reliably, the problem isn't the people, it's the premise. And here's where it gets interesting. The premise is this. Productivity is a behavior problem, meaning, if you just change what you do, your habits, your schedule, your tools, you'll become more productive. But neuroscience tells a completely different story. Productivity isn't a behavior problem. It's a biological state problem, and that difference changes everything. Let me explain what's actually happening in your brain. Your prefrontal cortex, the part right behind your forehead, is responsible for planning, decision-making, and sustained focus. It's essentially your brain's CEO, and your brain has a second system, the limbic system, which includes the amygdala. That's responsible for threat detection, emotional reactions, and survival instincts. Think of it as your brain's security guard. Here's the thing nobody tells you. These two systems are constantly competing for control, and the security guard almost always wins. When you sit down to work on a difficult task, something that feels challenging, ambiguous, or just slightly uncomfortable, your amygdala registers that discomfort as a low-grade threat. Not a lion, not a fire, just the vague anxiety of an unfinished project or a task you don't know how to start. And your brain responds the exact same way it would to any threat. It floods your system with a small dose of cortisol and pulls resources away from your prefrontal cortex. Your brain literally takes the CEO offline and hands control to the security guard. And what does the security guard do? It finds something safe, something familiar, something that feels productive without the discomfort of actual deep work. Email, social media, reorganizing your to-do list, setting up a new productivity app. Have you ever noticed how cleaning your desk suddenly becomes urgent the moment you have a hard project to start? That's not procrastination. That's neurobiology. But here's mechanism number 2. And this one is genuinely shocking. Most productivity systems actually make this worse. When you download a new app or set up a new system, your brain releases a hit of dopamine. That's the neurotransmitter associated with reward and motivation. You feel good. You feel organized. You feel like you're making progress. But here's the problem. Your brain experienced that reward before you did any actual work. Researchers call this substitution reward. Your brain got the chemical signal for accomplishment just from the act of planning and organizing. So now, subconsciously, your motivation to do the actual work drops. You already feel like you did something. The system became the substitute for the work itself. This is why the more elaborate your productivity setup, the harder it often is to actually execute. You've been accidentally training your brain to reward preparation instead of performance. And there's a third mechanism, the one that explains why everything collapses by day 4. Your brain runs on a principle called cognitive load management. It can only hold so many active rules, priorities, and systems in working memory at once. Researchers have found that the average working memory can hold between 4 and 7 items at any given moment. That's it. Now, think about what most productivity systems ask of you: weekly reviews, daily priorities, time blocks, project lists, habit trackers, energy management. They layer system on top of system until your working memory is completely overwhelmed. And the moment you hit a stressful day, the first thing your brain does is dump the non-essential stuff. Your system is the first thing to go. But the real reason is something deeper than biology. Most productivity systems are built around an implicit belief that you should be able to perform at a high level consistently, every day, indefinitely. That's the model. Maximum output, optimized schedule, no wasted time. And psychologically, that model is suffocating because it leaves no room for what it actually means to be human. Humans are not machines. We are cyclical. Our energy, our focus, our motivation, they fluctuate based on sleep, stress, relationships, seasons, and about a dozen other factors we can't fully control. When your productivity system demands consistency you can't biologically deliver, you don't just fail the system. You start to believe you're a failure as a person. That belief is the real productivity killer, because once you internalize the idea that you're someone who can't stick to things, every new attempt carries the weight of all the previous ones. And that weight triggers exactly the kind of low-grade threat response we talked about earlier, which pulls your prefrontal cortex offline, which makes it even harder to execute. It's a self-reinforcing loop. I bet you've experienced this. You start a system with real optimism. First 2 days go well. Then something unexpected happens. A bad night's sleep, a stressful meeting, a distraction you didn't plan for. You miss a day, and instead of just picking it back up, something in you says, "I knew I couldn't do this." And just like that, the system is dead. This explains why willpower-based productivity systems fail almost universally. They treat inconsistency as a character flaw instead of a biological reality. So, what actually works? Here's where we flip the whole model. Step 1, shrink the system until you can't fail it. Instead of building a full productivity architecture, identify the single most important output in your work right now, not a list. One thing. Research on goal achievement consistently shows that people who focus on one primary objective are 3 times more likely to make meaningful progress than people juggling multiple goals simultaneously. Then ask yourself, what is the minimum action that still counts as progress in that one thing? Not the ideal action. The minimum viable action. 25 minutes of actual work. 1 paragraph written, 1 call made. Make that the system. Because a system you can execute on your worst day beats a perfect system you can only execute on your best day. Step 2. Separate planning from doing, and never do them in the same session. Remember the substitution reward problem? Your brain can't tell the difference between planning to work and actually working if they feel similar enough. So, create a hard rule. Planning happens at the end of the day for the next day. Never in the morning when you should be executing. When you sit down in the morning, the decision of what to do is already made. All you have to do is start. This one shift removes an enormous amount of cognitive friction and cuts down the amygdala's ability to redirect you toward productive procrastination. Step 3. Build in planned inconsistency. This sounds like it contradicts everything productivity culture tells you, but it doesn't. Instead of trying to maintain a perfect streak, build buffer days into your system from the start. 3 focused work days, 1 lighter day. Or whatever ratio fits your actual life. When the lighter day comes, you're not failing. You're following the system. This eliminates the psychological collapse that happens after one bad day because the bad day was always part of the plan. Here's the bottom line. Productivity systems fail not because you're undisciplined, but because they're designed for a version of you that doesn't exist. A version with unlimited working memory, consistent energy, and no emotional nervous system. The fix isn't a better system, it's a more honest one that accounts for how your brain actually works, one that makes the minimum sustainable, not the maximum aspirational, and one that treats a missed day as data, not a moral failure. What I want to know is this: which of these 3 mechanisms did you recognize most in yourself? Was it the amygdala hijack, the substitution reward, or the cognitive overload? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely read them, and the answer tells me a lot about what to cover next. If this reframed anything for you, subscribing takes 2 seconds, and it's how you find out when the next video drops. Next time, I'm getting into why motivation is actually the wrong thing to chase, and what to build instead. It's a harder truth than this one. See you there.